This story is one of the most shocking and horrific cases I've heard in a while. Imagine that there's a house fire, and when authorities get there, they find a 32-year-old man who weighs 68 pounds. The man had been locked in a room and held captive for 20 years. He then tells authorities that he intentionally set fire to the house. He told authorities that he set fire to the house because he wanted to escape the abuse and the home. The house is now known as the Connecticut House of Horrors. At around 9 p.m. on February the 17th this year, the fire department responded to a call that a home was on fire in Waterbury, Connecticut. When they arrived, they found Kimberly Sullivan, and she was the owner of the house, and she was standing outside with a dog. Kimberly was the one who phoned 911 and reported the fire, and she informed them that her stepson was still inside and he was injured. The authorities became suspicious because the more they spoke to Kimberly, the more they realised she was only bothered about her dog and if it was possibly her. And when they went inside, their suspicions were confirmed. There was a 32-year-old man who has never been publicly named yet, and he was severely malnourished and his teeth were rotten. When they rescued Kimberly's stepson, he began telling authorities that he had set fire to the house because he'd been kept captive for 20 years. He told authorities how he'd set fire to the house by using a lighter, hand sanitizer, and paper. He told authorities, quote, "I wanted my freedom," quote. Authorities began investigating immediately, and they said that what they found in the house was like something straight out of a horror movie. The man told authorities that he'd been held captive since he was 11 years old, and that he'd lived in this house for as long as he could remember. He was 11 years old when he was took out of school, and he vanished from the public eye. He was kept in an 8x9 room for 22 hours a day, and even sometimes 24 hours a day. He sometimes had to drink out of the toilet and eat out of a bin just to survive. His father died last year, and he said that's when the abuse got worse. The man said that living inside that room was hell, because in the winter there was no heat, and in the summer there was no air conditioning. He also told authorities that at 8 a.m. every day he was allowed out of the room, but that was only to do chores, and once them chores were done, he had to go straight back into that room. After everything the man told authorities, Kimberly was arrested on a number of charges, and also for second-degree kidnapping. Since then, a lot more sickening and horrific things has come out about this case. Kimberly also had 2 daughters that were living at that house sometime in their life, and what's really shocking is that they didn't tell anybody, and they didn't even get him help, and they knew what was happening. Kimberly's daughters have never been publicly named either, but it's said that they still live close by to the house. This led people to question how the extended family and neighbours didn't know what was going on, and the answer is really simple. The Sullivans kept themselves to themselves, and they didn't interact with neighbours. Kimberly, as I mentioned before, was arrested, but she only spent 1 night in jail, and then she was released on a $300,000 bond. She is very vocal on how she thinks she never did anything wrong, and she refuses to take any responsibility. Kimberly says that the 32-year-old man's father dictated how he wanted his son to be raised, and she continued with his wishes after he passed. Kimberly also states that the man was never locked in a room and that he had free roam of the house. Even though this case is shocking, evil, horrific, I mean, I could go on, it's just terrible. I really do hope that the man, that he is now living a peaceful life, and that he heals in his own time from all of this. But I also want to know what you think about this case.